What's up, guys? Specstar here today with a draft recap for a GDS low tier draft. And the way this draft works is it's all low tier Pokemon. It's basically like tier 3 and below, but there's a lot of unbanned, or a lot of banned Pokemon, should I say, from tier 3 and around there that were just too good for this format, should I say. And the interesting thing about these tiers is they're three tiers: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And the interesting thing is that it's not really like tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. It's actually based on how well the Pokemon do in the lower tiers format, which is pretty interesting. And I've done myself a draft, and I took 3 Pokemon tier 1, 3 Pokemon tier 2, 3 Pokemon tier 3, and selected 1 Z user, and that's the way this draft works. Now, my first pick here was Swellow, and Swellow's a tier 2, and I took a tier 2 in round 1, and it's a bit of an interesting pick and probably a reach, but it's a tier 2 Swellow. I think this Pokemon would be a pretty good tier 1, actually, so you know what? I was not risking this Pokemon getting sniped. I wasn't going to let it happen. That was just too good a value for me to pass on. And here I've got this Choice Specs Boomburst Scrappy. That is what this Pokemon does. 125 speed, which in low tiers is just nuts. It's going to be faster than the fastest Pokemon on most teams. And this is a Pokemon I just think in this low tier going to be very annoying to deal with. And that's my thought process taking it. Now next I'm going to take my second tier 2 before I've even taken my first tier 1. I'm going to grab Espeon and actually make it my Z user. Espeon actually has a surprising amount of coverage. Fairy, Electric, Bug, Ghost. A lot of different coverages this Pokemon can run with Z. And with its speed and power, I think this Pokemon can be a potentially dangerous Z user and a dangerous offensive mon in general. Pretty hard to wall, especially with sets like Calm Mind. And with Magic Bounce, this thing goes nice with Swellow because it can bounce some things back, rocks in particular, which Swellow is allergic to. Don't want them up. Espeon helps Swellow with that. And interestingly, there's a little bit of synergy in that Swellow takes on Bug, but really these Pokemon aren't switching in too much. Espeon does have a little special bulk, so maybe you can do some stuff with that and Wish, but mostly these things are going to be offensive. And next up here, I've got Amoonguss. If you guys watch my channel, you know I love this Pokemon. I wanted to build early a nice defensive core, and that's what I did with Amoonguss and Alomomola here. Very nice regenerator core, which I'm very much about. They take a lot of what the other doesn't. Like, Alomomola is going to be weak to electric, weak to grass, and Amoonguss takes them on. Alomomola takes on fire types, and generally flying types in these lower tiers are going to be physically attacking, and Alomomola is going to be able to switch in on them pretty well. So they take on a lot of what each other doesn't, and for what they don't, I've got a few pieces that I think are going to help. And these are my rounds 3 and 4 picks. Just wanted to solidify a nice defensive core early on. That gave me more freedom to get some fun little offensive pieces, like tier 3, round 5 Bruxish. And it's a little bit early to get a tier 3 Pokemon in round 5, but it's Bruxish. I don't think this Pokemon belongs in tier 3 at all. This Pokemon is a pretty good stall breaker with Sword Stance and that strong jaw Psychic Fangs. Down here, it's going to be able to take chunks out of a lot of the bulkier teams, and that's a big part of why I wanted this Pokemon. It does have some coverage options too, which are pretty interesting, like Ice Fang and Crunch. And really, I just took this Pokemon because it should not be tier 3, and I'm really ready and willing to prove that it does not belong down here throughout this little tournament run. Did I mention this is a tournament? I better mention this is a tournament because that's like the first thing. And next up here, I'm going to take Hitmonchan. With my team, I wanted to get a solid fighting type. Didn't have too much for priority, and I do like to have priority. Didn't have a spinner or any sort of really good hazard control, so Hitmonchan's going to be nice with that. It's going to take on fightings for Espeon pretty well, going to take on steals, which the rest of my team doesn't take on very well. It's just a fighting type fits defensively pretty well with my team. I thought at tier 3 is pretty good value, and it was really nice to get a spinner here. Next up, I'm going to make the pick. I'm going to get Chansey. Yeah, I had to do it, boys. I had to do it. This Pokemon shouldn't have been allowed. It's fat, it's stupid. There aren't enough Pokemon down here to break it. But it was allowed, and it was there in round 7, and I needed a rocker, and it dealt defensively with a lot of the things that did beat Alomomola and Amoonguss. So I had to do it. My hands were forced. But, yeah. Chansey, you know, I don't like to have that kind of fat, but the rest of my team is very offensive outside of tier 1s. And this Pokemon, it fit, and I needed a rocker. I didn't have a rocker. This Pokemon's a very reliable rocker. And that is why I'm going to go ahead and take this Pokemon in round 7. And in round 8, I'm going to go ahead and grab my final tier 3, which is going to be Manectric. And I didn't have an electric immunity, I didn't have a Volt Switch immunity, which I do think is important. There are a lot of good electrics in this lower tier stuff, Rotom, Jolteon, and I did not want to let those Pokemon have the potential to run train on my team. I wanted to get a nice electric immunity to kind of stop the Volting. And that is my thought process with taking Manectric in tier 3. Has some interesting coverage in Overheat, which allows it to hit a Flamethrower too, if I'm not mistaken, which allows it to hit a lot of what the hidden powers don't hit. And yeah, with Lightning Rod, this Pokemon is just going to be, A, it's my answer to Electrics, B, it has a pretty nice speed tier, does contribute to my speed tiers, which I think are pretty much very solid on my team, and it does, with its coverage, special attack, and speed, I think it can be annoying for teams to deal with defensively. And that is why I'm going to be taking Manectric in tier 3. And my final pick is going to be my tier 2 Sneasel. And it is very nice on my team, which does not deal too well with Ghost, doesn't deal too well with Psychics, bulky Psychics in particular. Having a Pursuit Trapper, very nice. Of course, Knockoff, which you can't put moves on a Dark type without just putting Knockoff there. I put Pursuit and then my body, you know, muscle memory took in Knockoff. And it started typing on its own. And this Pokemon, again, it's going to be another Pokemon that's contributing to my speed tiers. It's nice to have Espeon with this Pokemon, keeping rocks off the field. Hopefully, we'll see what happens in reality. But in theory, keeping rocks off the field. And it takes on a lot of the things that do beat Sneasel, like fighting. I've got some answers to Bug, which could be a little bit annoying, but hopefully not. And that is going to be my team here. So I'm going to have, to recap it, I got, for tier 1, I've got that nice fat core of Amoonguss, Alomomola, and Chansey. My tier 2, I'm going to have a nice offensive core of Swellow, Espeon, and Sneasel. And then in tier 3, I'm going to have Bruxish, Hitmonchan, and Manectric. And I don't know how long it's going to be until I get these battles up, because there are some drafts that haven't even finished at this point. Shouldn't be that long. I should have some stuff going up soon. I joined this tournament because I'm not really in... My league output isn't that much right now. I definitely have some more I can handle, and my uploads haven't been as much as I'd like them to be, so this gives me more to upload, something to get out there. And I do have some plans potentially in the future to add stuff, but there's nothing imminent right now. So this should be something to upload that I think would be fun, you know, messing around with these low tiers in a tournament format. So if you guys got any predictions about how my tournament run's gonna go, let me know in that comments section. And if you're a big fan of Chansey, you love that Pokemon, drop a like for Chansey. And that's it for this video. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves a good night.